folks, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Natasha and I do book things here. Today's video is going to be another Stephen King Sunday, but today I'm going to be talking about book to movie adaptation. That is going to be for Carrie. If you guys want to watch my book review of Carrie, I have that up in a previous Stephen King Sunday, but since that I have now watched all 3 Carrie movie adaptations and I have thoughts and opinions. I'm going to talk to you guys about how I feel about each one of the movies, how they compare to the book, how they compare to each other, which one I like the best, blah blah blah. I'm not a movie critic. My husband is the theater guy, theater major, and so he really breaks down movies. I kind of just watch them simply for entertainment. A lot of what I say is just going to be, well, I like this or I didn't like that. Take it all with a grain of salt. It's just my own personal opinion. Definitely feel free to leave your own opinions down below. So I am starting with Carrie because I am reading Stephen King's works in publication order and going through each one of the adaptations as I read it, because most of Stephen King's work have been adapted now, and a lot of the times there are multiple adaptations for each one of his books, so it is a lot to ingest. It's a lot to process, but I'm going to talk to you guys about the 3 Carries today. I can almost guarantee that a lot of you didn't know that there were 3 Carries, and I knew that there were, and let me just tell you, I was not excited to watch all of them just because some of them aren't good, and a lot of Stephen King's adaptations are not good, but that's fine. So there's the 1976 one with Sissy Spacek. To me, this is classic horror movie, classic Carrie. Then you have the 2002 sort of TV movie one. This one is horrible, horrifically bad. It's like laughable bad, okay? So like there's that one. Have the 2013 remake, which was definitely sort of like controversial. It was like, oh, they're making another Carrie. This one has Julianne Moore and Chloe Grace Moretz, I believe is her name. But those are the 3 movie ones. There is, I believe, a 1999 TV version. I couldn't find too much information on that one. And then there was a play like adapted to it. I couldn't really find too much about that either. Yeah, I definitely watched the 3 movies and I have opinions. So I'm going to start with the 1976 one because that's the one to me that I have the most familiarity with, and that's the one that I have watched multiple times because I like it so much. I guess you can kind of tell from there which one I'm going to recommend to you guys, but it does have Sissy Spacek as Carrie, and to me when I think of Carrie, that's who I picture. Just the blue eyes and just kind of like shy little ugly duckling Carrie. Me, when I think of Carrie, that's who I think of because I watched that movie really young. I've watched it multiple times since then, and somebody who's a big fan of horror movies like I am, Carrie is just like a classic horror movie to me, so I've watched it many times. You gotta keep in mind that this did come out in 1976, and so there's been a significant period of time. It's definitely dated now when you watch it in 2018. Sissy's acting is just still so strong that it's worth a watch, just for that alone. Also keep in mind that Carrie was released at a time where there was a lot of really classic horror movies coming out, which I feel like they capitalized on, like just having released it at that time period. Rosemary's Baby was in 1968, and then The Exorcist was in 1973, which was huge and like very impactful, and people went kind of crazy for The Exorcist. 3 years later they released Carrie. I think that had, you know, in part to do with its success because people were like, ooh, another horror movie. Makes sense to me anyway, I don't know. So the 1976 version definitely does stray a little bit away from what's in the book. All 3 of the movies do, but I find that the real main differences from the book to the movie is the ending. I'm gonna get into spoilers. Kind of have to when I'm talking about how this movie goes. But in the ending in the book, Carrie's mom is not killed in some dramatic way. Carrie actually squeezes her heart and stops her heart, whereas in the 1976 version, it's very dramatic. Her mom gets like, you know, pinned to the wall in like a very religious kind of stance and type of way, which is like perfect. I like the difference to like book to movie in that case. It worked really well for the movie. Also, I feel like the 1976 version focuses almost most on Carrie's mom over anything else. It does focus a lot on Carrie's like personal experiences, but I feel like the religious tone of the 1976 version is just very strong, very strong. The actress who plays Carrie's mom is just over dramatic. She ad-libbed a lot of lines in that. A lot of the biblical scripture that she says in the movie isn't actually like Bible verses at all. She just sort of made it up, and it's perfectly portrays the actual, lack of a better word, craziness that is Carrie's mom in the book, and so it does come across very scary. This version as well doesn't really focus too much on any of the side characters. It does focus a little bit on Sue, which does play a very big character in the book. I find it focuses more on Carrie and her mom and then Carrie's revenge than it does any of the side characters, which is fine, but I feel like if you haven't read the book, you kind of want a little bit more backstory on some of the side characters. I'm going to talk about the 2002 one and then also the 2013, and then I'm going to go back, I'm going to talk about the major scenes I feel like in each movie and how they compare. 2002 TV version is by far the worst adaptation in my personal opinion. Some people really like it. I find it horrible. It's so dated. The lines are horrific. Like, it's bad. It's so bad. And it's very cringy. The acting is not good. And to be honest, if you're gonna watch all of them, watch it if you want, but just, you know, my warning to you is that it's very bad and it's like almost a waste of time. One thing I will say though is that the 2002 one is the most book accurate, which is kind of a shame, but it definitely is the most accurate to the book. The way that Carrie's mom dies is accurate. The way that Carrie not only takes revenge at prom, but like destroys the entire town is accurate. So there's that. If you want to watch it, watch it. I personally am not going to talk about the 2002 one very much because it is just garbage in my honest opinion. Also, the 2002 version ends with Carrie not dying, but in fact running away with Sue to Florida, which is like, okay. And then apparently it was a pilot to actually have a Carrie and Sue solve mysteries in Florida show. So I'm gonna let you process that because, one, I would watch it, but it would be just bad, okay? So, yeah. So that leaves the 2013 version. This one is actually pretty good. I find it pretty good, but you do have to keep in mind that it is set in 2013. So it does differ quite a bit from the book. It differs quite a bit from the 1976 one in that it's more modern. You just have more modern take on the whole movie in general. There is the introduction of cyberbullying. There is cell phones, you know, uploading stuff to YouTube, which I feel like they did really well. But it obviously moves away from the source material quite a bit. The 2013 version focuses more on Carrie's development and honestly less on anything else, but just more focuses on Carrie. I find that the mother in that version is less overdramatic. She's still definitely messed up. It's less super religious basically, and it does focus more on Carrie's self-discovery and growth and her figuring out her abilities. And then in the 2013 one, you do get a lot more backstory on Carrie's mom, why she's messed up, and then also a bit more backstory on Sue's character, which Sue plays a really huge part in the book. And I think it's important that Sue is more important in the movies just because it makes sense to the book and why, like, you know, she's the only person that feels for Carrie, so I feel like it's important to have her there. Go through a couple characters and then also a couple major scenes and how they compare. The very first thing is the casting of Carrie. I personally think that all three movies don't do Carrie justice in any way, especially in comparison to the book. In the book, Carrie is like a pimply teenager. She's described as an ugly duckling. And to be honest, in all three movies, Carrie is too pretty. Sissy Spacek is definitely like a more different look. She's more of like a weirder Carrie. But in all three movies, I personally think that Carrie should be a little bit more not pretty. I just feel like she's too pretty. That being said, my favorite Carrie definitely does go to 1976, Sissy Spacek. I just feel like she does the best job with Carrie's character. I feel like the main downfall for the 2013 version is that Chloe Moretz is just too pretty of a Carrie. Like, the girl's beautiful on like her own, and then the fact that she plays Carrie is just, it feels off, and like I feel like she's just a wrong casting choice for Carrie. She does an okay job, but her acting is the worst in the movie, and so I feel like I would have casted the 2013 one very differently. Yeah, definitely Sissy Spacek is my favorite Carrie, and just her mannerisms as well. It's very subtle. She does a lot of like head turns when like she's moving things, whereas Chloe Moretz does this like hand gesture, like I'm going to move you over there, I'm going to move you over there. I feel like it's really cheesy in the 2013 one. I don't know, I find like I'm moving things like that is just overdone, and oh, don't even get me started on the 2002 one. She just looks like so stupid when she like does anything. Just pretend the 2002 one doesn't exist, basically, okay? It's bad. Just don't watch that one. To me, the two major scenes in Carrie is the opening tampon scene and the prom scene. Like, let's get real. When you think of Carrie, it's those two scenes. Both of them are actually done pretty well, but both of them are very different and are very goofy in their own ways. It's definitely shot in a way that like you feel Carrie's panic. The 2013 one is more interesting because of the use of cell phones. They whip it out, they record it, they put it on YouTube to like further shame this girl, which by the way, like, fuck those girls, like, in both scenarios. I don't know, I feel like both of them are really good, so I don't mind either one of them. So that brings me to the prom scenes, which is the, you know, climax of the movies of the book. 1976 one is done, in my opinion, so well. There is no CGI, it's all a lot of practical effects, and to me, the pacing of the prom scene is what makes it so perfectly kind of scary. They slow down the music, they really stretch out that dramatic scene of like, you know, you have Chris holding on to this string and like the bucket is moving with the blood, and you know that it's going to be this like explosive moment. The music in it is perfect, like they quiet everything down. They use the music actually from Psycho in Carrie, and so just the mix of the music, the pacing, and like the slow build of that moment happening is perfect. When Carrie actually destroys stuff, it is very cheesy watching it now. There is the like water hose that sprays people around, and it is cheesy. I'm not gonna lie, it is cheesy. But there's something just very classic about it. It's charming watching it, to be honest. And then just Sissy Spacek's like crazy blue eyes, like, you know, peering out from the blood, to me is just fun. I like it. It's my favorite one. So I definitely prefer the 1976 prom scene. The 2013 one though is strong in its own, but there is a lot of CGI. It's very drawn out. It's very gory. It's like overdone in my opinion, but it makes sense for the time, and it makes sense in comparison to other horror movies around 2013, so I feel like it holds its own. There's a definite difference between the two, and it's actually really fun to watch one and then immediately watch the other one, because you just get to see how like film progresses in like 50 years. You get to see sort of how things change in like 40 years, which is crazy, you know, so it's really cool to like compare the two. And then the endings in both are actually very similar, in the way that Carrie's mom is killed, the way that Carrie and the house sort of disappears, if you will. Both are very similar, and one thing that I noticed when watching the 2013 one is how similar it is to the 1976 one. I feel like the layout of the house is very much the same. That final scene with the mom who, you know, she gets stabbed with flying things, they're almost identical. Like they're really almost identical. Even though it's a remake, they definitely did a nod to the original Carrie, which I can appreciate. It wasn't like they completely threw away what is a classic movie. So I think it's fun to watch both and compare them like that. It's fun. So that's kind of what I have to say about all of them. Hopefully that makes some sort of sense. Like I said, I'm not a movie critic, so Forgive me, I just want to ramble about stuff. So obviously I think you should read the book. The book is really good. I rated it a 4-star. It definitely still holds up in 2018, even though it was written in 1974. I think it's great. I think everyone should read it. If you don't know the story of Carrie, you should read it, even though I just spoiled everything for you. You know, read it. If you've only watched the movies, I think you should definitely read the book. It's very interesting, gives a lot more backstory to all of the characters. So the 1976 movie, definitely watch it. That one is my favorite Carrie. That's the one that I will continue to go back to, and the one that sort of cements itself in my heart as the original and best Carrie. The 2002 Carrie. Don't do it. It's not worth your time. Definitely go on YouTube, maybe watch a couple of clips, and you'll understand why it's so bad. And then 2013 Carrie is definitely worth a watch itself. Just know that I personally think that Chloe's acting is a little over the top and a little bad, but Julianne Moore's acting is really good. So it kind of works out like that. Also, there is a lot more CGI in this one, and a lot more gore if that's what you're into, which I can definitely be into sometimes. So yeah, hopefully you guys like this. Leave me any comments down below which Carrie is your favorite, and any of you guys' experience with it, and anything like that. I will absolutely love to have a discussion about this because I've watched all of them now, and yeah, so leave me any little comments. I get a kick out of these videos. I hope you guys like them as well. So yeah, that is my first book to movie adaptation video. I'm so happy to not have to watch Carrie for a little while. Hope you guys are doing good, and until my next video, I will talk to all of you soon. Bye!